Hello and welcome to another video in the MB Sports Web Tournament Module video training series. In this video we're going to go into the Tournament Admin module and specifically have a look at the Tournament Setup section. This section has a Getting Started page which has a glossary of the terms that we use and some of the expectations you can have of the site. We're going to show how to set up the Twitter and integrate the site with Twitter to automatically tweet scores and news articles. We're going to show the tournament venues page, how to add your tournament's venues or to copy from a previous tournament. We're going to show setting up the groups and divisions, which is a very important step in setting up the tournaments. It's vitally important to know what the difference is between a group and a division and how you want to set those up. And we'll show some of the advanced features for creating your own tie-breaking rules, and lastly we'll finish up with how to add or import the list of teams that are participating in the tournament. So we're back in the MB Sports Web demo site. Within the control panel, we're now within the Tournament Admin module for the tournament that we've got selected. And within this video we're going to look at all of the items within the tournament setup area. So the first page is this Getting Started page, which is a glossary of the terms that we use and some quick instructions for what you want to or what you might want to take a look at. Really recommend that if this is your first tournament that you have a thorough read of this page. It does have a lot of instructions on here, and the last part of this is also the expectations of what the website does and does not do. Now, if you are copying from a previous tournament, there's a button that's available in the top right of that page, and also there's a link in the second paragraph. We're going to show how to copy some information from a previous tournament, so we'll do that a little later on. So the first page that is in this tournament setup, other than the Getting Started, is the Setup Twitter page. Now, we will assume that you've already created your Twitter account for your tournament and you're even logged into it on Twitter, which will make it easier to allow the website to post to it. So I'm logged into the MB Sports Web Twitter account right now, and we're going to say that for our tournament we're going to use the MB Sports Web is the Twitter account name, or sometimes people call that the Twitter handle. So you want to do just the name, not the @ symbol, just the name of it, and update. So as of right now, if I were to look at the tournament site, it would show a link for us to the tournament Twitter account. Now, to allow the website to post to Twitter, then we need to also click this button here which says to click here to allow automatic status updates. This will then open a page on Twitter which will ask us, do we want to allow the website to use our account, which it basically says we're going to post information to the Twitter account on behalf of your Twitter account using the website to do so. So we'll click Authorize the app, and this will take us back to the website within the Tournament Admin module. And if we look at the Setup Twitter page, this should say now that we have automatic status updates are successfully set up using the account that we've specified. One thing you want to be careful of is if you do have your own personal Twitter account and you're signed into it, when you click that button, it's going to actually authenticate the website to post to your personal Twitter account. So you want to make sure you're signed into Twitter using the tournament's Twitter account. Now, if you want to turn that off, you can click here to stop those automatic updates. I'm going to do that because I don't want the tournament in the demo site here posting stuff to our MB Sports Web Twitter account. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the tournament venues. So similar to the rest of the control panel, once we're looking at the list of venues, we have a button that says Add Venue. So the venues are very simple. You give it the name of the venue and an abbreviation. So if our venue name was kind of long, we can say sample venue number 1. The reason you want to put an abbreviation, in fact the abbreviation is even required, is there are pages on the site that list the schedule. So rather than showing the entire name of the venue, we show the venue abbreviation because there's lots of information to show in a tournament schedule, such as the group, the division, the teams that are playing, date, time. So to keep the venue name as short as possible, we require that you put in an abbreviation for those venues. So we can call SV1 for sample venue 1, and we do also recommend that you add the street, the city, the state or province, the postal code, and the phone number for all these venues. This information does show up publicly, and in fact, we use the address to automatically generate a link to Google Maps for all those venues as well, which would be very useful for your tournament participants. So once our venues are in, if you need to make any changes, you just again highlight that venue and double click on it and make whatever change you need to make. Now, venues are one thing that you can copy from a previous tournament. So to do that, we're going to go back to our Getting Started page and click Copy from a Previous Tournament. So this is going to say, based on the fact that we're looking at the 15-16 World's Greatest Tournament, we're going to pick a tournament to copy from. So if your organization has multiple tournaments per year, then you can choose any of these if they share a common list of venues, or if you have the same tournament in a previous year with a list of venues. So if you have a lot of them, then you can go ahead and copy these. If there's just one or two, then you can just as easily add them each tournament if you'd like. Now, the data that we're going to be using in our demo here is actually a very, very large AAA minor hockey tournament from a couple of years ago is where we got the data from. It's the Hamilton Bulldogs Reebok Classic, which has about 110 AAA teams and about 250 games. We intentionally chose a very large tournament for the demo to showcase how you want to set up for a very large tournament, but if your tournament's a smaller tournament, then all of these principles will apply. It's just in a smaller scale. So because it's such a big tournament, we have a lot of venues that are available, and it's asking us if we can check off which venues we want to copy, and in this case we're going to copy them all. The groups and divisions I'm going to uncheck for now because we're going to cover that in a few minutes. So we're going to uncheck all those groups and just choose to copy the venues. So it'll ask, are you sure? We hit OK. And now we're going to go back to our tournament venues page, and we've got our list of venues that are available. Now, on the groups and divisions page, which is the next thing that we want to set up, this is where we want to understand what a group is and what a division is. Pretty much every tournament these days is going to have groups. Now the site does allow you to not use groups and to use just divisions, but it would be very rare to have that scenario. Almost always you're going to want to have groups. Now a group is a set of teams that are participating and vying for a championship within your tournament. So if you're doing a minor hockey tournament and you've got an Atom group and you've got a Pee Wee group, then those will be set up as two different groups, and because they're going to have different titles. Similarly, if it's a minor hockey tournament and you've got an Atom AAA and an Atom AA, then those again will be set up as separate groups because they're not going to be playing against each other. So to add a group, it's the same as everything else in the control panel. Let's click Add Group. Now this parent group option, this is for really, really big tournaments. So if you've got a minor hockey tournament with AAA, AA, single A at every single division, from novice to minor Atom, Atom, and minor Pee Wee on up, then maybe you want to have super groups for each of those. But this is very, very rare, so we can usually leave that parent group as none. And then the start and end date for the group itself, you'd also generally want to leave that blank. This would allow you to say that if you've got a tournament that spreads over 2 different weekends, you could say that one group participates for the first weekend and another group for the second weekend. It might be just as easy, however, in that scenario to create 2 separate tournaments when you're creating the tournaments within the system administration module. So the group name would be something like novice, and the sort order for however you want it to appear on the website, and then the maximum birth year for the players that are going to be on the teams within that group. So it can be whatever it needs to be, and then you can also give it a description if you'd like. So we can do insert and add another to create another group, and we can create one called Atom and have it a sort order of 20. And by leaving gaps in the sort order, that allows us to rearrange things a little easier down the road. So we'll make the sort order for these guys a little bit older. Insert and close that. So now we've got 2 groups. Now right away on the screen it's telling us that for these groups there are no divisions that are set up. Now division is a set of games within a group that are vying for a advancement to another part of the tournament or to the championship game. So the most common scenario for tournament setups these days is to have a round robin portion of the tournament followed by a championship division. If it's a true double knockout or things like that, then again you're going to need divisions to be really the bucket for where all of the games are going to be contained for that part of the tournament. So again, groups are sets of teams and divisions are sets of games. And the divisions are going to be within a group. Okay, so once we've got our groups, then we can start adding our divisions. And when we're doing divisions, it's going to ask us what group it belongs to. So we'll say that it's the novice group. As soon as we've chosen that, it's going to pre-populate the birth year for the division. And maybe we'll call this Pool A and have it show up first. And our abbreviation, we can call it NOV-A, so say that it's the novice group A. Now again, the abbreviation shows up on the schedule pages. So you want to have an abbreviation typically, and it would usually include an abbreviation of the group as well as an abbreviation of the division in most cases. Now this format is the what determines how this division is going to show up and what other things are going to happen. Really the ones to focus on are round robin and round robin with bonus. So again, if your tournament is having a round robin portion of the tournament, you're going to choose one of these two different options. The difference between the two is that round robin with bonus allows you to enter the score for each game and then also assign each team as many bonus points as you'd like. So if it's a minor hockey tournament and you're doing things like points per period or shutout bonuses or overtime losses or things like that, then you're going to want to choose round robin with bonus. And that way, when you enter the score, the site's going to compute a point value for that win, loss, or a tie, and then also allow you to enter additional bonus points for each team. And it does allow for decimal places as well, so if you give a half a point for tying a period in a minor hockey tournament, then you can do that as well. Round robin would just be a straight calculation based on the wins, loss, ties, and when you're entering scores for those games, it doesn't even ask you for bonus points, it just asks you for the score. Every other type of tournament format would fall basically under the elimination or elimination with consolation. These are essentially the same thing. They don't behave differently. So most people just choose the elimination one just to keep it simple. If you're doing a double knockout or any other format that's not a round robin, they all fall underneath the elimination type of division. Now the divisions also can have descriptions if you like. But we're going to make this one Pool A and we'll call it round robin, and then we'll do insert and add another and assume that maybe there's a Pool B, and we'll abbreviate that one Novs B with a sort order or two. If I insert and close right now, so we've got two different warning messages that are now showing up on the screen. Now something that people tend to forget quite a bit is that when you do round robins, you have the two divisions make sense for the two different pools. But you also need to have a place to house all of the non-round robin games. So all of the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, all those other games cannot or should not be assigned to the round robin pools. Otherwise, those games, once they're played, are going to count towards the standings, which you don't want. So that's why this different message shows up. This indicates that you're almost there. We've detected that there's round robin pools, but there's not an elimination pool. So if we create add division again and again choose novice, our division format this time will be elimination. So we can call this one just novice-ch for whatever, for championships or whatever we want to call it. And again, this is not necessarily an individual game. We recommend that anything in this case that's not part of the round robin be called the championships, plural, and then that way if there's a quarterfinal, semifinal, final, all those games would belong to this championships division. So once we've got this set up, then the warning goes away that we've got a typical or normal setup going on. Now again, we can copy these from previous tournaments. So because I'm using a large tournament as my demo, I'm going to go ahead and delete all these guys out of here so that we can copy this information from a previous tournament. So back on our getting started page, we're going to do copy again, and same thing, we're going to choose a source. Now we're not going to copy the venues again because we've already copied them. This time we are going to copy the groups and divisions, so it's going to say we want all these groups from the previous year, and all the divisions that were set up underneath those groups In this tournament, which happened 3 years ago. Sometimes like the novice group had like 20 teams in it. The minor atoms had, I think, six. So they had different formats for each part of the tournament. I think one of them, I think the major peewees actually had 13 teams. So they had a really interesting format they used for that one. Now, for the teams, we're not going to copy these. You can, and if you did, then it would copy the team as sort of placeholders, where it would say Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4. If you copied the teams and copied the actual names, then that would bring across the actual teams that were in this other tournament into the one that we're looking at right now. It'd be pretty rare for that. That would assume that every single team who was in the tournament the previous year is back this year. So this would just create placeholders, and there'd be times that you want to do that, but I'm not going to do that because we have a way of importing teams that I'll showcase here. So we're going to go ahead and copy that, and I'll ask, are we sure? And now it's copying all of our groups. So now we got our novice group with our Pool A, Pool B, Pool C, Pool D, and our championships, and all of the remaining groups are also set up. So at this point we don't have any teams, but before we get to that, we're just going to cover off quickly this division settings page. This allows us to define for each of these groups and divisions what the game duration is, how many points are awarded for a win, loss, or tie. If we want to do any color coding, if there's a description of the game, so this is a hockey site, so this is giving us period lengths, but if it was a baseball site, you could say how many innings each game was supposed to be. And then this time in between is the number of minutes that are required for rest, or you'd like to at least assign for teams for rest in between their games. So there's a report that shows an issue checker that's one of the things that it checks for. Now with all these settings, you can set them for each division individually, but you can also set them for an entire group. So if, for example, this novice group had a situation where they were giving 5 points for a win and 3 points for a tie, then we could set that for the novice group, and this is going to now apply that setting to all of the divisions within that group without affecting any of the other groups or the other divisions. Now, if we went back to the championships, now this is sort of irrelevant because the championships aren't round robin, but if you wanted to go back to say, well, it is 2 points for win and one point for a tie in a different division, even though the group is set to have 5 and 3, then we can set that on an individual division. Now, if the entire tournament had the same settings, where it was maybe 4 points for a win and 2 points for a tie, then we can set that up as well. And then all the game slot lengths are actually 90 minutes instead of our default of 60. Then we can set that at the tournament level, and then it will apply to all of the groups within the tournament that don't have another setting. So if I want the novices now to take that, I'm going to clear out the previous settings and update that. And now the novices are all 4, 0, and 2 except for the championships. And we'll get rid of those guys as well. So this division settings page, we do recommend that you take a look at this and set especially the game duration is important, because when you're scheduling games, you're going to be scheduling the start time, and the system will calculate your end time automatically for you based on the game duration set for the division. Although you can also, for each individual game, set a different duration if you'd like as well. Under sort rules here, this is a fairly complicated way of creating your own custom tie-breaking scenarios. This does give you a lot of different rules. Now we do provide a default, which is more or less a standard, which is to sort round robins by points first, and then if tied, if there's two teams tied, then we're going to do the points between those two teams if they play each other, and then after that, differential of all the games that they played within the tournament. If there's 3 or more teams, then it's going to do the points in between the teams of their games that they play against each other, assuming they all play each other the same number of times, followed by differential. So these tie-breaking rules, if you need help in translating what your tie-breaking rules are in English to how the system would like to see them using our little cryptic codes here, then please open a support ticket with us. We'll be happy to make sure that your tie-breaking rules are being effectively produced, so that the standings that are being generated by the site are actually correct. So the last thing on this video is the participating teams. So again, on the participating teams page, if we want to add a team individually, you click add team. It'll ask us what group it belongs to, the name of the town or city or zone, or and then the nickname of the team. So if it's like the Toronto would be the one, and the Maple Leafs would be the nickname. And then for each team, you can indicate whether or not they're a host team. The only thing that changes is on a couple of pages, it will bold teams that are the host team. So it sort of assumes that people are looking at the tournament from the community where the tournament is being hosted might be interested to see how the local teams are doing, so that just makes it highlight a little bit more. Other than that, the host team box doesn't do much. The primary contact email address, so the coach or the manager for that team who you want to set up. If you're going to allow them to have access to the site to enter their rosters, then you can give them a deadline for doing so. And then you can also declare whether or not there's been permission granted to publicly display any rosters that are entered for those teams. And also another email address where we would send email instructions for those teams to self-enter their own rosters, and we do cover this in a later on video, so I won't go into it in too much more detail, but that's adding your teams. So again, you can add your teams individually just by doing insert add another and continuing to go down the path. And we do also now have the ability to import your teams. So on this import teams page, it does give you instructions or a description of what's going to happen. It gives you a sample file format of what the Excel file needs to look like. And the Excel file needs to be saved in the Excel 97 to 2003 version, which is the one that ends in .xls. Newer versions of Excel will save files in this format, but by default they're going to save it in a newer version, which will have a .xlsx extension. So you want to make sure that it's in this Excel 97 2003. Now on this form is also going to say it's going to bulk set the roster editing deadline date, and this is the default that was on the other page when we were adding the team individually. But if you want to give people a different deadline for adding their own rosters, then you can do that. But there needs to be something specified there, so whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what it is, and you can bulk update it using the same method here. So I'm going to browse to the file, and we've got an Excel file that I've set up previously. And I'm just going to go ahead and open that on a different screen so that we can see what it looks like. So this is from that tournament in Hamilton from a few years ago with I think there's 109 teams in this list. So we're looking at the name of the group, the division, the city, the nickname, and then the emails. I don't have them, so we just left them all blank. These columns do need to exist in this file for this import to work, but obviously the data doesn't need to be there. Now, what's kind of interesting on here too is that we can use this to say that the Domino's Flyers are in the Major Atom group. In addition to that, though, if we know what division they're going to be in, we can specify a division here. So this actually allows us to assign a team to a division right away, which is quite handy. As we see later on when we're looking at the managing schedules video, there's a way to assign teams to divisions, but this is much quicker to do it that way. There's a checkbox on here that says validation mode. So if this is checked off, which is the default for it to be checked off, then all it's going to do is look at your file and it's going to make sure that it's going to work. And if it's not going to work, it would then tell you what the issues are. I've actually validated this file before, so I'm going to uncheck that box. I do want this to save it, and I'm going to go ahead and click import. And it shows that 109 teams were added. So if we go back to the participating teams page, we'll now see that for the novice group, we've got all these teams that have been added to novice and minor atom and major atom. Now from here, if we do want to go back and check off the host teams, we can go back and say, well, the Hamilton Junior Bulldogs, that's the host association here. So we can just click host team, and that bolds them and puts them first in the list. So if you want to go back and check off those host teams, you can certainly do that after you've done your import.